So, welcome to Brisbane Azure User Group. We've had a fairly exciting month this month with Ignite, and we've got a few things to talk about, and then we will get underway with the main event. Anyway, welcome, Brisbane Azure User Group. Oh no, fail. Let's try that again. October 2020. So first of all, big thank you to our sponsors. So without our sponsors, none of this could be possible. So big thanks for Microsoft and Codify. These guys are great. They've been supporting our group all through this time, so that's fantastic to see. Before we get into some new topics, getting involved is really important. That anyone who's interested in presenting, join in, help out, get involved. It's a great thing to do. It's easy to do. You don't have to have a full presentation lined up. We've got spots for small presentations as well as large presentations. So this is what it looks like at the moment. We're still looking for somebody for November, and then end of the year we've got our unconvention night. So that's an opportunity for some really small presentations to group together, and we can talk about some great topics. Doesn't have to be huge, and it's a great thing to start presenting, start getting engaged with the community. Jump in, you won't regret it. It's fantastic. So if you've got something you want to talk to us about, we'd love to hear it, and we certainly would love to hear one for next month. So let us know. All right, so a few updates. Now, Ignite was massive, lots and lots of stuff. So what I'm not going to do is go through everything in detail. So I might just call out a few things. If they resonate with you and you haven't seen the Ignite stuff, jump in, there's plenty of stuff online. A lot of these things are going to start dropping into Azure as we go forward in the next couple of months. So stay tuned to the blogs and see what's going on, because not all this stuff's available straight up that was presented in Ignite, but it's all coming really soon. Some of it is absolutely available. So cognitive services had a bunch of stuff come through, machine learning, search, bot frameworks, some great updates there. Within the data space, Redis, Cache got some different tiering, Cosmos, bit of stuff for MySQL and PostgreSQL. Azure SQL got a whole bunch of stuff, which is really cool to see. That's my favorite. I don't know if you can tell. Also Power BI and blob storage, there's some really cool stuff coming out there as well. For the data centers, availability zones are rolling out. So that's a pretty important one. So I'm going to call that one out separately. So they're coming to our country. So that's more important. And that's really, really important for our stuff. So in the dev ecosphere, App Service had a ton of stuff that's coming, so it's going to make that even better. There's new plans, there's new isolated plan coming out, support for Tomcat if you're a Java developer, containers plugged in, and that's GA. So a whole bunch of stuff there that's really good. Azure Communication Service, worth giving that a plug. So if you're doing SMS, text, video, that sort of stuff, you can plug that straight into your apps, super easy without any drama at all. Bit of stuff from Datadog. Kubernetes got a couple of little things. We've got a massive update for logic apps and the ability to run the functions runtime locally. So if you're doing dev, that's super important. It's going to make things heaps easier rather than hooking up to the cloud when you're doing your dev work. All right, there's a bunch of stuff came out for Arc. So for all of those people who haven't heard of Arc, it's super awesome. It allows you to run Azure services anywhere in your own data center or in other cloud providers. It gives you that consistent platform that you can build solutions on top of, and it doesn't lock you into any particular cloud or infrastructure. So it's really cool. There's a bunch of stuff that's coming out for Arc, and Arc ecosphere is just growing every day. So that's really good to see. A bunch of infrastructure changes, you know, new VMs, you know, I could go on and on, lots of stuff in Ignite. Check it out if any of that sort of stuff is appealing. Some interesting things, you know, HoloLens 2, that's coming. So there's a whole bunch of different capabilities in Azure to support the HoloLens. Azure Orbital, that's kind of cool as well. I don't use satellites in Azure, but you know, maybe one day. Who knows? NFS 4.1 support for Azure Files. What's in preview? So that's something that's come along, and that's pretty cool. So check that out. So that's a quick wrap up. Don't want to bang on about Ignite. There's just too much content, to be honest. So if any of that was interesting, go and check it out. All right, so we've got a session coming up soon. We've got Adam and Todd from Microsoft. They're going to do a bunch of new things around Azure DevOps and GitHub and web apps, containers, a bit of integration stuff. So we're going to roll these sessions out. Dates to be confirmed, but keep an eye on some of the comms that's coming out from the user group. These are going to be well worth getting involved in checking out, because those guys are sensational presenters, and it's well worth seeing the stuff that they put up there. All right, so just a recap of the resources that I'd recommend. So, you know, there's a bit of a Slack channel, YouTube, and then blogs. These blogs are really good. So, oh, sorry, training. Going too early. Training resources, and then we'll go to the blogs. How about that? So if you don't follow these blogs, recommend it. Well worth it. All right. So that was very quick. And tonight, without any more ado, I'm going to hand it over. Ashish is going to walk us through SIEM with Azure Sentinel. So Ashish has worked as a technical manager focused on Office 365 stack in Australia. Great bloke. We've had a meet up and we've had a chat, and he's here to help you out. So without any further ado, take it away.
Thanks, Jimin. Thank you, everybody. I hope I am audible good enough. So let me go and do my screen sharing so that I can bring up the content and talk about it easily. The more screens you have, the more challenge it is. Share the screen too. Okay. So I believe everybody can see that. Let me just, yeah, it's going in the Teams. Let me verify that.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, okay, cool. Great. Thanks everybody, first of all, for coming to the session and looking to listen what I'm going to talk about in the Azure Sentinel. Azure Sentinel is the modernizing way of your security operations. You can look at calling it as a security operations center, as what happens in the security operations centers is like you have so many screens, you are looking at different data points at every point of time, trying to see where the challenge is happening. And then as soon as there is a red pop-up coming up on any screen, you start looking into that issue and trying to fix that up. And that's a very costly setup in a lot of organizations who have that manual or user-driven monitoring operations. Now, in the Azure Sentinel, it works within the cloud. So it's not really something you have to really set up something early and set up the infrastructure, bring a lot of resources to manage it. So I'm going to talk about is how the Azure Sentinel is changing the modern workplace and also helping the security operations to be monitored and catered for the issues. Now, My name is Ashish, and I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I work with one of the partner firm of Microsoft here in Australia. I'm looking after my security team as a manager. So, and my primary focus is delivery and pre-sales. So I'm working very closely with Microsoft and understand what's happening in their cloud world, security world, and how we can take that to the customers. But I'm not going to sell anything here. I'm just going to talk from my learning perspective. As when the Azure Sentinel came in approximately a year and a half back, it was very new and it was a very buzzword in the cloud as it's going to change everything in the security, but it was very hard to learn it. Now, I don't have everybody's video, but I believe if everybody can just give a thumbs up if they have done a Azure Sentinel work or they have read through the information about what is Azure Sentinel likely. So I will have idea how many are first timers and how many have the expertise in the Azure Sentinel so that I can talk about that accordingly. So let me know if you get some of the thumbs up in your session, and I will go next and keep talking. I'm pretty sure, like, sorry.
I don't think we can see that in a live event because I can't see the actual attendees.
Okay, let me make an announcement and then everybody can respond to that.
They can't talk either. They can only respond in the Q&A.
Interesting. Okay, I guess. Oh, okay, I will try that later. But so what I'm gonna do is what's my approach is here. I'm gonna leverage my learning experience and talk about the Azure Sentinel as what it is, what it does, and then I'm gonna take you through the practical side of the word as what it looks like in the portal, what it does, and how you can build your security center using Azure Sentinel. I will try to stick to level 100 to 300 or I say 250. I will not go deeper in that operations. If you have any questions deeper, you are happy to put the Q&A window and I can check on that. Okay.
We're getting a couple of thumbs up now, which is good.
Good. Yeah, that's great. So that's good to know if you have looked upon it and you have seen it at least, and that gives me the idea. Now, and if I look upon the Microsoft documentation, I shouldn't be saying that being a Microsoft MVP, but the standard Microsoft documentation of Sentinel is very confusing, and that's what I have found myself. There is a team led by Ofer. He's the engineering manager in Microsoft. They work on the engineering, but there is a team led by the CXP, the customer experience team called as Nicola. He is one of the good guy in the Sentinel as if you have questions. And one of the team member with him wrote a book on the Azure Sentinel. It's in the Microsoft Press, and that book is way much better than the standard Microsoft documentation. I found that book in the beginning of the year, and I found that book is very step by step, detailed enough to go and learn yourself rather than the standard Microsoft documentation. So if you are looking to learn Azure Sentinel, I will recommend go and check the Microsoft Press website and look for the Azure Sentinel book. It's done by Nicholas and Yuri and Jonathan. They all are the security experts in the Sentinel space. Let me start with the security Azure Sentinel here. So I will not go and talk about the marketing stuff, but the challenge started happening in my customer space is COVID hit in the early of the year. Everybody would like to go on the cloud because they would like to work from home, and the cloud is the only option which will allow them. Now, when we allow them to start working from home, the first low-hanging fruit was like they can go home, they can log into the teams, they can get their work done. A lot of enterprise organizations at the same time did not see or overlooked up the security part of it. Like when you are letting employees go home, work on their devices, your information is floating all over the world, and you never know what's happening with that information. Is it kept secret, intact as it is, or is it being leaked and somebody is going to use that? Now, what happened with that? We saw a lot of organizations coming and saying that, hey, I would like to keep monitoring this, what's happening in my organization. And until you don't set up those individual security components like MFA and AIP and all of that, you really don't have a traction as where the information is going. The only option is monitor it, what's happening in that organization. And Azure Sentinel is the best way to go forward, because again, you don't have to set up your infrastructure. It's a fully cloud native SIEM, and you can start in minutes, not really the days or the hours. It's ready to go in minutes if you can make a decision on the go. So it was very easy for us to go and start talking to the organizations as how the Azure Sentinel can help them to work from home or to enable the remote working, and at the same time secure that environment or the infrastructure and leverage the cloud SIEM. Now, I will not go deeper in that because that's more of a thing. So when I see where the information can go with this remote working, I start working in the office. I have the corporate network. I have limitations as what I can do on those corporate networks, what I can do on my managed device. A lot of managed device even cannot install a simple software also, whether and approved by Microsoft. So there are a lot of challenges with the managed device. We start remote working. I'm in home office. I'm using my home Wi-Fi. Is my Wi-Fi secured? A lot of guys initially were not able to do that. They were just using the open Wi-Fi, and there were a lot of challenges. Then I can start using my personal laptop to do the work as well. So right now, if I want to open my company Outlook or Teams, I can use my personal device. I don't have to use really the company device or managed device. Mobility as it's coming through the mobile devices, tablet, and even the watches, the wearables. So a lot of organizations allow to use that. A lot of organizations allow to use the wearables and then do a lot of things. Like I was talking to a friend and he uses Apple Watch, and we were talking about what sort of Outlook options are available on the Apple Watch and what he can do with that. So there are a lot of devices, and you never know where the information flows. Like I don't know if the Apple Watch gives the same security perimeters as the Apple iPhone gives, and we have to verify that. And the application works on both the devices. So it starts having those challenges in the word. And coming to that, when it's all connected about where that information can go and what can happen to that information, you have to really start and look at that security. Now, building that security is good way in the cloud. You can leverage the platform as an infrastructure or as a platform, as a software, as a service. But at the same time, when you start seeing trend in it, how do you react to it? And how a person can start looking at that operations and then see what can happen. So what Microsoft came up is starting to understand, okay, what's happening in the environment, in the platform, and how we can start looking into that. Now, since we know that, okay, training the resource or training someone who can look upon that information, make a decision and define it, what's going to happen, bringing the AI and automation part to it is also really important. And that will provide us to say, okay, there is some information coming up, there is some alert coming up in my SIEM. I see that it's not a problem because I see that user came in from their personal device. Okay, their home IP address. Okay, they were able to do the MFA and access that information in a limited experience. So that secures my information. But if I'm trying to see, okay, there is a user coming up from a IP address which he may not have logged in a recent time, but even though within the same country, but he has not used MFA at that time, he might have bypassed somehow or trying to access using the client app. That starts giving me a idea that there is not something going right here. I have to look upon it and I have to take some action on it. And that's where your AI and automation can help secure that information process. Now, we know that there is a Azure AD, which has PIM and MFA, and it has its own log process. Then we have, let's say, for securing files, we have AIP or sensitivity labels, we have DLP rules, and then we have Security Center, which has its own logs. Then we have AMCAS, which has its own log places. And then we have MDATP or the new name Defender for devices and Defender for cloud. All of those Microsoft Defender products have their own logs. What happens in that space is your information does not flow between the system. So for example, if I'm trying to use my managed device and I log in, as soon as I log in and it's connected to an internet connection, my Defender for device will send the alerts and the logs to the Defender portal. Now I'm trying to open a browser and I'm trying to access a SharePoint site. And then I go to a SharePoint site. The SharePoint access logs and the AD logs will be stored in the AD and SharePoint separately. Now I'm going to share a file with an anonymous link to external party. And I can send that file sharing link successfully. Now, as you see here, there are different components involved in that information flow, and each component has its own log. There is no integration for a security person to see what a person has done in that flow. He has to go and look upon the 4 information sources logs to find out what the flow looked for him. And by the time he realizes that, okay, this person has shared a file anonymously with some competitor, and you take an action on that, your information is gone by that time. You really need to react or start a process as soon as you see that somebody is trying to share a file externally, if you let him go by that time. And even though if he has shared file externally, you should immediately go and react and say that stop sharing of that file, so that you can at least save your information. And this is where the Microsoft Sentinel platform help us to bring that AI and automation expertise with integration across a lot of security products and give you a holistic picture of what's happening in that security world with your all the components living in the cloud. And it brings you can bring a lot of on-premises logs as well to get integrated with this structure. And it's using the Azure log analytics workspace behind the scene. So it's no-brainer as how you can bring any third-party logs also to this platform. So there are a lot of connectors which we will see available out of the box. If you have questions, feel free to ask me anytime. If you have a scenario which you might have been playing or thinking about in the Sentinel and you want to discuss that, I'm happy to take those up and talk about them as well. Now I will just go next here. Yeah, I will just go next here straight away. We talked about that. I will not go there. Not the Microsoft approach. It's just some numbers as what's happening in the security world and how these numbers are going up and up every day. The number of attackers, the number of different strategies is how they're trying to attack. And if I remember recent story, Microsoft was able to foil up one of the cybercrime, which is going to interrupt the US president elections. So it is happening a lot in this time. Now in this Microsoft Word, now we are talking about Sentinel, which a lot of things are available to us. But at the Microsoft end as well, to help understand that AI component, Microsoft has a lot of different teams who work internally with in Microsoft, and they work with partners and other customers and other security companies to collect that information and build that AI ready for you to use. So I was talking and reading some articles recently about the DART team, which is here, which is a detection and response team. And they are seeing a lot of different threats happening in the cybercrime, and they are working on those threats, analyzing those threats, and getting you a model ready for the machine learning so that if they are trying to come in your environment, the Sentinel is ready to go and start act upon those straight away. You don't have to really learn what's happening in that cybercrime world and prepare yourself. So this is where the Microsoft team, which is working in the security side, are also helping us to leverage that readiness and learning of their employees and their team members, and be ready to use that in your security world in the Azure Sentinel. I will focus on the important aspects of the component. I will talk about this, which is much better option here. So in the SIEM model, so there are two models of the Azure Sentinel. One is SIEM, which is about collecting, identifying, and processing that information, and the other part of the Sentinel is SOAR, which is about operations and is defining a structure and automating all the processes to manage those threats. Now, in the SIEM world, you will have one or many security products across the Microsoft and other parties. The Sentinel can collate or collect all the information in one place. So you don't have to really worry about, okay, I'm going to use the Sentinel, but is it just working with the Microsoft products or not? I will show you the list, and list is keep going up every week pretty much, as I see a lot of new connectors are being added to that. As soon as any type of attack happens, like a brute force attack or the password spray attack or anything which is a standard industry terminology, and Microsoft uses the MITRE attack to mitigate a lot of challenges as well. So you will start seeing that the SIEM will give you the information, it will give you the alert, it will give you also false positive sometime, and this is where the graph and the AI comes into the picture and start helping you to build that, and then you can take it to the next level. Now in this, a lot of focus is as how you go and set up your systems and how it will go and flow into the Sentinel. Being a Microsoft word, the Sentinel straight away connects to a lot of services in the Microsoft Word. So things like your MDATP, your Azure Defender for identity. This is the ATP here, which the naming has changed in the Ignite recently. And then you can use the Office 365 ATP, which is Microsoft Defender for cloud now. MCAS. You can connect your Azure Security Center. You can connect the log analytics from your VM in the Azure or from third party. You have AWS connectors. You have Palo Alto F5 network connectors, and tons of the other third party connectors are available. Even though there is no built-in connector in Microsoft Sentinel, Azure Sentinel, you can still use a standard log collection mechanism and send that log to the log analytics workspace, which sits behind the Azure Sentinel, and you can still correlate those logs with your existing logs. So it gives you that capability that you can send your applications log or third-party system-generated logs and analyze them together. And once they are in that Microsoft Log Analytics workspace, you can then start automating your process, and you can include that information in your hunting or querying. These works may be sounding familiar if you have played with the Sentinel previously. These works may sound alien works if you have not looked upon the Sentinel previously, but I'm going to show you every step of the Sentinel. And I will just say to Dan and everybody on the team, if I'm running overtime, feel free to let me know so that I can go accordingly.
No, you're fine. You got as much time as you want.
Okay, I will not go on the modernization plan. It's more like that. This is where the products sits, as how many companies are working with the Azure Sentinel product, and they are bringing their connectors. I will keep skipping the things. Now in the Azure Security Center, let me see. Okay, I might have disabled those screens, but I will just close them up. Let me bring up the screen here. So in the, where did it go? Yeah, I have it here. Yeah. So in the Azure Sentinel, it could be a little confusing when it comes to the licensing and the costing part, because there are two things to this. The very first thing is that the base and everything stores in the Azure Log Analytics workspace. So if you know that, okay, I'm going to give a cost estimate to a customer, the very first thing is you have to know is how much log you're going to get. And based on the assumptions in the best practices, you can assume how many logs you're going to get. Then in the data connectors, which feeds the log to the log analytics workspace, there are some premium connectors and they have a different pricing to it. That's the second part to the pricing model. Then if you talk about the SIEM here, if you are just sending the logs and you are using the connectors, that will be enough. But that's not the really purpose of the Sentinel. The next purpose of the Sentinel is to look upon that information which is incoming and act upon it using the playbook or using the logic apps, if I simplify that terminology. The logic app has its own licensing model as how it will calculate the cost of running different logic apps. Now, based on the alerts which you receive on a daily basis, on that basis, you will execute different logic apps, and they could have premium connectors, they could have different execution path, and that could define as on an average what that execution look like on a daily basis. So there are multiple I say angles to look upon the licensing and the costing of the Azure Sentinel. And based on that, you have to look upon that information and provide estimates to the customer. There is a Microsoft built-in licensing calculator which they have released internally for the partner. So if you are a partner and you would like to use that, you can reach out to the Microsoft team and they can give you that calculator. So you can use that to give the licensing cost to the and license and deployment cost to the customer. Now what I have here is I'm going to take you through two demo tenants. One of them is here, what you see, and this is a demo tenant where we have information, but we cannot do anything in this. The other demo tenant which I have is less information, but I have full rights to execute everything. So first I will take you through a browse through and talk about what each component of the Sentinel is, what they really do, and then I'm going to show you that what is the use case we have and how we can build our automation and query and all that and use Sentinel to the best of it. Okay, so let me start with the Sentinel here as what we are looking here. Now, if you see the data range here as what days you are looking, and then you see the events, the alerts, and the incidents. Now, if you see upon here, you see different things happening with different types. Now, I have not integrated the threat intelligence, so you will not see that in my environment. It is very new. It came like 2 weeks back. So, but it's not that complex to integrate. I have to just take some time and do it. Now you will see the alerts. Now, these alerts are something which I have to see, I have to monitor and act upon it. This is like a summary dashboard for the IT admin when you land into the Azure Sentinel space. Now, as I was talking about the AI part, now Microsoft is also working. Now, Microsoft is also working on the machine learning part of it. Now, we know that when we start leveraging the AI, when we start logging all the data, everything is new to it. Everything could look like an alert to it, but it has to learn over the period of time and then understand what is alert really and what is the normal activity. And that's where the machine learning will help us. Now, Microsoft is coming with its own built-in machine learning. And as published publicly, they're also trying to help and let us bring our machine learning model also. Like something will happen in the future, it's not readily available. And you will see, like if right now you're seeing these options in the left-hand bar and some other options on the different blades, you may see some totally different options coming through in the blades and the options on the left in some time. The team is working very quickly. If you see the book, which I was referring in the early of the call, the book was released in the April, and we are just closing to 6 months now, and a lot of link which you see here as preview, and I will see some more links while I'm on the different blades. They are not there in the book because they have happened only in the 6 months time. So as we say, the Microsoft Cloud is ever changing thing. So it's very hard to keep keep up with all that changes. So you will get at least the base ready, and then you can see all that updates coming through the tech community blogs and the articles. Now, as I talked about, everything goes into the log analytics. The log analytics is like your SQL. I will try to map it up with my terminologies. The SQL data warehouse. So it's like a big uh, database environment where you have logs coming from all the sources. I will not go into the log analytics here because I don't have license in this demo environment, so it will not show me, but I will show you in my environment what it will look like. So all the logs from all the connections will come to one place. Anytime if you need to find any information, you come to this log place, you write your query, get your data. Now I'm going to talk about the step-by-step process. Or it will be much easier if I jump into my environment and show that as well. Let me bring that up here. Yeah.
Ashish,
yep.
Maybe before you continue, just let you know, there's a question from somebody about what is a good comprehensive way to learn Azure Sentinel, videos, books, etc. Looking for in-depth resources. I don't know if you're planning on providing that maybe later or.
Yep, sure. I can refer that. So if I say, okay, I am pretty sure you have gone through the basics of the Sentinel and that's where you're looking to learn in depth. Only training which Microsoft claimed to be a level 400 training is publicly available on the tech community. So they have published a blog calling as Azure Sentinel Ninja training as level 400. And that training is not really a guided training. Let me be open. That's more like their internally published videos and articles which they are talking about, and they have published them in a blog to give you a training exercise or go through it. When it comes to like level 400 things, it will really depend as what scenario you have and how you can solve that scenario. I have found that training content is overly kill some time if you are not really well versed up to a 300 level of the Sentinel, and getting to the 300 level is what I have did is looked upon that big book is approximately 200 page, it's not more than that, and then they have recently published these new options into their into their Microsoft Docs. So what I have looked upon is got the basics clear. Then I looked upon the tech community blogs, the new features which came through, and the docs documentation so that I am up to date as what's happening in that. And it's something like which you keep learning and keep improving. So you can look upon all the three resources as if you would like to for an in-depth one.
Great, thanks, Ashish. That's the only question so far.
Thank you. So yeah, I was trying to generate the things in my system and look upon that. So this is my environment. Let me be open here and go and build this up. So now I go here and this is my logs space. So this is, as I mentioned, this is like your database system where you see all your tables being available over here. And you can directly write a query and get those things. Now, the interesting part is this is not like a SQL query. So if you have used your Azure logs previously and queried them up, there is a language called as KQL, Kusto Query Language, and you can use that and write that information. Here you can get some samples if you would like to run directly, things like this here, and you can see, okay, what that look like. Let me bring something this here. So this is like a KQL example. This is your table. So if I say I have to, so what I have been running is this sort of a table here. So if I go and just do this, let me do this run here. So it's like SQL pretty much. So if I have so many lines of the code on that and I have to just run this, I can select and do a run, and it's just gonna go and query that data. And if you have to build more complex queries, you go and add a pipe and you start typing it. It gives you that intelligence and you can build upon it. And then when you are happy with a query, what you can do is you can go and create a Sentinel alert with that. And you can go and save that file as the query or a function. So like, for example, if you believe that you got the information what you need, and then you might need to use it again and again, or maybe use this query to trigger more alerts into your system, you will just save this information as a query and use that for the analytics, and which will trigger the incidents. Or if you believe this is more like a function query where you will pass something to it and then it will process further, you can save this query as a function. And when you save that query as a function, you will see here at the bottom you have functions, and you will get that function available over here. So you can use them across your tables and across your other analytics query. So this is where your log analytics is available, and you can write any query across the systems you are connected with. Now this is like a starting point. Okay, maybe here. Now the first thing which you will do is the data connectors. The data connectors is like your connection points where you will say that, okay, I want to bring, like say, Azure AD information into my Sentinel. You will go and look upon that list. You will collect that uh, the Azure AD, and then you will go and open the connector page. Now, this will go through the prerequisites. Right now, I don't have a AD P1 license or P2 license. Otherwise, it would have ticked that option, and then I have the option to find out what type of the logs I was trying to see, the sign-in logs or audit logs. And then when you go to the next step, you will see that, okay, there are 4 recommended workbooks. Now, what is a workbook? Now, when you see this data here, this is like a chart information or graphical representation of the information which is coming either as a audit logs or sign-in logs. Now, you may want to see that information in different charting or different view purpose. These workbooks are nothing but those graphical representation of that information, and you can customize these information. And these are the 4 recommended available. You can go and get them created if you need to, or you can just stick to the default one and you can create any custom anytime. Now, then you will see that there are some analytics template here. What is the analytics template? Now, when you connect any connector, whether it's a AD, whether it's a MCAS, or whether it's AIP or SharePoint or anything like that, all that information when it comes, it is like an alert. The system has registered an alert and it is coming here. Now, this analytics rule here, what they do is they process every row of that incoming data and say that, okay, if there is a matching information in this word, and this information has to be looked by someone else, like anonymous anonymous signing happening from an unknown IP, brute force attack, for example, which I was talking about, the extra anyone link sharing of a SharePoint file from the SharePoint or OneDrive or anything. As soon as that alert comes through that data connector, these analytics template will go and create an incident from that information. So if you go and trying to connect this data, you will say, okay, there are so many rules. Which one do I need? One Microsoft recommendation is you should go with high and medium rules. You can leave the low rules if you want to, because they are more like a fairly more like a information purpose, and you don't have to really create instance out of that. So if you say, okay, you have connected this AD, and you need to say MFA disabled for a user, you need this one. So once you connect that, you will go and say create the rule, and then this will go and create a rule in the analytics. So let me show you that. So I will show you what Microsoft connectors are available. So right now there are so many connectors in the Microsoft, and it includes Office 365 or M365 and Azure connectors. So it has both the side of the word because everything is important. So you will see I have been connecting the MCAS, I have connected the Office 365 and ATP, and this is the 3 connected ones. So you will see a dark green color bar over here next to their lines. Now let me show you the Office 365 one, which has that data. So this is like a live representation of that information, which is coming from this connector. It checks that information, it has these connector configurations, and then it has some rules, and I might have created some rules out of it, or maybe I have created my own analytics rules. So it's not necessary you have to create these rules only. You can create own rules as well. Now, once that's done, you will go back to your Sentinel. And once you created a connector and the workbooks are loaded, you will be able to go to the workbooks, and you can look upon your my workbooks, and then look upon the, let's open this share Office 365 one. Now I'm gonna just load it all, and then user type all. And this is gonna just load all that information straight away. And right now it's looking upon Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive. So it's looking up all the information here. If you need to pull out any other log, for example, let's say Planner or Power BI or anything like that, then you can connect that as well and bring that information. Now here, this has different graphical representation, like it has a full information here, then it has two bar graph pie charts here, then it has a recent activity table here, and some user-based activities. And I have been using this account on which I have logged into this meeting the most. So you see that there's so many operations done by this. And then you can, let me scroll it down here. Then you have SharePoint and OneDrive, then Exchange. I have not added the Teams here, but you can add a Teams. If you feel this is not enough as out of box one, I need to add something more, you can go and feel free to go to edit. And then you can go, and let me show you at the bottom. You will see this add option here, and it has a add query, add matrix. And then here you will see, okay, what type of that query you are looking, which resource log you are looking, and this has the different advanced settings. Sorry, let me jump. I jumped quickly too quickly over there. Now, when you see the visualization, you will see here, it already have preset visualization. So as soon as you get your data, which can be represented in either of that specific way, it will automatically generate that graph to you. You don't have to really do the formatting or anything like that. Then you can go and set up the color palettes also. And once that's done, you go and save it back. So it will go and modify the existing workbook. But now let's say you want to create your own workbook. You don't want to modify the existing one. You can go and add a new workbook. This just give you a simple query of that log. Then you can go and edit. And you can go and edit this thing. And as you see here, it is just the text, but this part here is a query of that information. So it's trying to get that information from different things. Now you can see the samples of those queries here. Also, you can write your query here the same way, like as we were writing, and you have all that intelligence available so that you can write that query very easily. If I remember correctly, I might have to see. I might be missing. No, there are different types of query here. So there is a right now what I'm seeing is a KQL based on the information which lives in the log analytics. But I might be missing something. I have seen that you can write a Microsoft Graph query also directly in this, and you can bring that graph based information to present in a graphical also. So it's available both ways. So based on how you would like to build this workbook. Workbook is more like, in summary, I can say is graphical representation of the information which you need to work upon on a daily basis. Now, workbook is done. That means my logs are coming. I can go and verify the logs, whether they are coming or not, and create a query out of it. Then the next part comes the analytics. Now, when you create your Sentinel as a fresh environment, you won't get any analytics rule, because anything which is coming from your data connectors and showing up in the workbook, nothing is being considered as an incident until you say so, because it's just the information being ingested into the Sentinel. Now here you will see that, okay, I have created some rules already, and this is one of the rule which I was playing with recently for a demo. So in this case, what I'm trying to do here is, and this is one of my requirement as well, like a customer, and that as soon as somebody is trying to create a anyone link in the SharePoint or OneDrive, I want to see that which user has created which location and what's the file name, so that I can go and see that if the file has a AIP label or not. And if it doesn't, then I can go and revoke the access immediately. And all this can happen on the fly using the logic apps. You don't have to really have a person sitting there and doing this. Now, what I did here in this case was I went and created a schedule array. And then I gave a name to it, let's say test demo. And then the tactics is just to define as what's happening. So I will say discovery, the severity is minimum, it's enabled. Then this is the query result, which I will see. So if I go and say office activity, and as soon as I type in, you will see that the instant results happening. So it's very interactive, that is how the information is coming. I will keep it office activity for the sample here. Now we know that the information which lives in the Azure AD log is not the same as the MCAS log, is not the same as the office activity log. What is the way to bring all this information as a common platform? And that's where the entities or the object model come into the picture. So what happens when you are writing a query, like say from office activity, and you need the person, the URL, and the file details? What I'm going to do is I'm going to have, these are the 5 standard entity types. So in the accounts, I'm going to just say user, and I'm going to bring it as a user ID. And I have to add this in the query. Then in the URL, I'm just going to do a URL, and I need that site URL. And then in this file, I need the file. I will say source file name and add that. Now what this is going to do, when I see my query being executed and I need to run some automation, all these 3 information, user, the URL, and the file name, will be passed to that information. And I can process that information, and maybe let's say I want to find out the logs of the sign in of this user after this is done. Then I can take this user ID in my logic apps and go and find out in the Azure AD logs as what has happened with that user account. Was this compromised? Was there multiple failed sign-in attempts? And if I found anything like that, I can go and disable the account. Now, the next one is more like a scheduling. So right now I'm trying to run it. So I can do a run every 5 hours and look upon the last 5 hours data. So that means if someone scheduled a query, sent a file as a anyone link in the last 5 hours, it's going to just pick that information. It's not going to pick up something from the more than that time frame. So this is the threshold. And you may need to run this when multiple user might have done it. You can do the grouping of the event. So if same person is doing or same site is sharing multiple sites, it will group all that. Let me keep that as it is. The next one here is the incident setting. So when you get this alert and try to process it up, do you really want to create incident from this alert? And this is where when you create an incident, it will be highlighted to the security operation person, and then he can process that information. But in this case right now, let's say I don't want to create I don't want the incident to be created just for my information to see what's happening. I will just do that. When I do the enable, I can do the alerting as well. And then I can do all that settings, which is here. So I will just keep it disabled. Now in the automatic response, you will see that it is showing up a logic app to me, which I can associate with it. So what happens when this alert or this query runs? And if there is more than 0 record being returned, that means there is 1 record at least which match that condition, this logic app will run automatically. And why this is happening? Because the trigger type is Sentinel alert. So there is something happening. The Sentinel will pick this up and it will run automatically. And then I can just go and look upon that information, and then I can just go and create it. So it will show me a create button if everything is proper here. So it validates that. While that's happening, let me go back and show you the one which I have created here. So this is my alert here. This is my logic in the office activity. I'm trying to look upon the SharePoint or OneDrive. I'm looking only the file type as of now. I'm not looking the folder. Then I'm doing a SharePoint sharing operation. And then I'm trying to look upon very specifically the anonymous link created or anonymous link updated. So if somebody created a link newly or added more person to that link, it will go and trigger that information. And then I have passed all these details into my query. And then I'm just trying to run it up every 12 hours from the last 7 data. It is going to generate more alerts than it should because I'm just trying to generate some alerts. Then I am creating the incident out of it. Then I am running this logic apps. And that's how I created it. Now, as soon as anything happens to this, I cannot see the run activity here. I have to go to the Azure Sentinel logs and see that information. Now, as soon as anything happens here, this goes into the incidents. And this incident is something which you will see what's happening for the user. So right now, everything is coming from that because that's the only one. Now, when you see this here, let me show you that. You have option here to investigate and view the full details. Now let's go and investigate how it will look like. Now here, if you see this incident or the alert has this URL, the admin account. This is the IP. And then there are 2 files which were shared by this user. Now, if I need to see more information, I can look upon that entity structure, which I was passing from the analytics. And then if I wanted to see more information as what has happened, I can see that using the incident itself. So this is the alert ID, the alert name, which is running this. Then if you see more here, this is the query and this is all that. So I can go and view the playbook. Playbook is nothing but the logic app here in this case. So I can go and see what has happened here. You can see the playbook also or the more details using the view full details as well. Now here, if you see, you will see the view playbooks and this has run. If you believe it might have not run or you need to run it again, you can run it straight away. Let me show you the playbook in this case here. Now I will go to the designer. I will show you. So in this, if you see here, this is a trigger to run the playbook. It's called as Azure Sentinel alert is triggered. There are 2 types of the trigger for the Sentinel. I will show you them. Then what I did is I got the incident by passing the parameters, and these comes automatically as soon as you start building it up. I will show you a sample. Then I got my accounts, and then as soon as that was done, I added a comment to the incident that this is generated by the playbook, ignore it. And where do you see this comment is here. So if you believe, OK, you are trying to do something or you are generating alerts or incidents out of it, but nobody has to do any action on it, you can put a comment or post a comment to it and the SOC person will ignore those incidents coming in their basket. So this is how you can automate that full thing. Now, logic apps live under this playbook sections. You could have the logic apps with a Sentinel trigger, or you could have logic apps independent to it. But these independent logic apps will not come when you're trying to do the analytics because they are independent to it. What you can do is you can call these logic apps when you are running this process so that you can trigger multiple logic apps in one go. Now, when you create a new logic app, I'm just trying to create it. OK, now it's going. Done. Go to the resource. And I'm going to do a blank app here. Now in this, I'm going to do a Azure Sentinel. And in this Sentinel, you will see there are two trigger conditions. The one which I'm using is this. Now, when a response to an Azure Sentinel alert is triggered. And this is where you can associate them with the analytics rule. The incident creation rule was triggered. It's in the private preview only. You can use this, and this is required when you want to do something in the incident. So you can associate them in the incident as well. And this happens in a automation mode. So I will go back to this place. And when you see here, there are two. So I was creating the schedule query. The schedule query triggers based on the first trigger conditions. The second one, which is the Microsoft incident creation rule, it doesn't give you the association actually. So it has directly the service information. Let's say if I'm gonna do the ATP one, and then I go and create it, the second trigger condition runs when there is a match with this thing. So what happens, you have to filter your conditions in the logic apps that when it has to trigger and when it has to run. You will get all the data in your conditions. If you see, let's say, I'm just gonna do the Sentinel and I say add a comment to an incident. And when you start typing this, you will see all your things here: subscription ID, resource group, workplace ID, all of that information available. So it's very straight away forward. If somebody has played with the logic apps, it's a no-brainer. Now the thing is, based on your complex automation process, you have to define this. I'm just confirming how much time do I have still to go? I'm over 5 minutes or still time to go?
No, you're fine. There's no one after you tonight, so you can keep going.
Okay, great. So this is how you can create two types of rules in the analytics, and they will trigger the logic apps accordingly. Now, after this, when your connection is ready, you can see that data. I have the analytics rule to push that information and go to the incident and do all that. Now, in this case, I was adding more commenting to the incident, but you can do anything. Now, for the customer where we are working, we were seeing some of the problems that there are some phishing emails which are getting filtered from the Office 365 ATP, and they are landing into every employee mailbox. So when you look upon the Office 365 data in the Sentinel, that's not good enough still. So there is a new thing called as advanced analytics in the M365 Security Center or Office 365 Security Center, which used to be. You will see that there is an advanced query information, and you can pull, and that has that phishing data details. So what we are doing, we are bringing that data separately into the Sentinel, and then trying to run a playbook to go and operate on everybody's email account, and very specifically delete that particular sender email with that specific subject, so that anybody will be able to receive it, but will not be able to take it further, because we will go and delete that email from everybody's inbox to minimize that phishing attack. That's the sort of a operation which you can put in, because as you know, every day the phishing things changes, and not everything is updated, and may not filter all the phishing emails. So this logic apps can be simple like what I have, go and add a comment in the incident, but it can be very complex like this example, which I have told you, that you identify a phishing attack, you go and iterate through every user email account and go and delete that specific email. Now, those two things are covered. Those two things are covered. Now let me talk about hunting, which they call it as a level 400 thing. But I really don't see where the level 400 goes in that. Now, in this hunting, what they call it is about go and hunt the threats. Basically, find out that information which is the issue, or which is creating the issue, and then you can go and mitigate that issue. Now, in this, if you see here, a lot of things here will have a very complex query. And you may not be, I don't have a lot of connectors like that, what we have there. And that will be a challenge for me, but I can definitely do this here. I can definitely try this one. Okay, interesting. I might not have that data. So if you see here, what hunting is really, as you saw in the logs, that you have like a big database system where you have multiple tables and you can write your own query. Now in this hunting, it's similar. So you can write a very complex query which can go across multiple tables and do joins. So I'm talking about connecting 2 or 3 tables and getting a join and looking at that information and saying that what's happening. And then you see the records here. Now the interesting part in this is you can go and look upon those records individually. And as soon as you see those records coming through, you can create incidents out of those records. So it's more like you see something which might have been missed because you don't know those analytics rules to be in place by that time. And then you see that information. So you can go and save them as an analytics rule again. It's pretty much the logs query thing you can create as a new alert rule. And then next time when you see that similar thing happening, the incident is created. Then on the same incident, you can trigger the incident and start investigation of it. Now in this further going down, you can create new query like what I was trying to do. They are calling something called as live stream. Now what is live stream really? Now as you see here, the analytics runs every time when the new information is incoming from the data connectors and create the incident out of it. Live stream is you have a big complex query and you are trying to monitor a live session. So if I go and say that add to live stream, this query will keep running on my live incoming data rather than a scheduled query on my office activity. And then it will show me straight away what's incoming and is there a match or is there an incident possible from that information which is incoming. And then I can say, okay, yep, this is happening. And then this query should be saved as analytics and will keep in generating the incident in the future. Now the next part is the bookmarks. Now the bookmarks is pretty much the same. Like you go and do the live stream. When you are in the live stream, you can go and bookmark those queries and they appear in the bookmarks. It's like saving your query. Like you may not be putting those queries as your, what do I say, like a analytics rule, but you like those queries because that gives you that information. So you can save any of your custom query here and bookmark them so that you can come back and every time and run them up. So it's pretty much like saving your favorites. So that's a new thing. So you can go and do a new live stream with that information also. You can create the analytics rule out of it as well. So it's that hunting. And Microsoft called the hunting as a level 400. And that could be a thing like where they see that the complexity of the KQL increases and they call that as a hunting. I have not played with the notebook, I will be open, but this is something which have changed recently, maybe in the last 1 year. So notebooks are very similar to what the workbook does, but it's more within the Python language. I'm not an expert in the Python language, but they have integrated this with the Jupyter notebooks. I'm not sure if you have worked with the Jupyter notebooks in the past. So you can use the notebooks, what you have here. You can also, let me see if I remember the URL correctly. You can go to the Azure Sentinel and they have a lot of things already available here. So you can leverage that or you can create your own notebooks also. Right now, I don't have and I have never played it. Now, previously, when I was playing with it, maybe 3 months back, the ML space was not there. Now they're trying to add ML with the notebook with the Python so that you can bring your own ML model and also leverage Microsoft built-in ML models and process that information. So it's developing. I have not played with it, but this will be a place where you may look upon and see that information and train your ML model with your information. Now, the next part which we have here is the entity behavior. So as I was showing you, the entity is nothing but the creating that common information, common object with the 5 attributes and bringing that up here. Now here I can go search account host or any entity which I have created. Right now, if you see here, I was searching the admin. And when I click upon that admin, it will show me that what sort of things were happening with that admin activity. And I can customize this date time frame. It's just showing me the last one. I will go with that. So you will see what has been happening with that activity. It's still loading. And then you will be able to see, okay, what has happened with this entity as such. And as you see here, I'm playing with these two things. I've been trying to share and do the work, and then I've been trying to play with the playbooks as well. So this gives you like the view as what this activity or what activity happened with this user account. Right now, what I'm doing is a user account. You can do with a host. So if you see a malicious attack being originated or a threat being originated from a particular machine on the network, you can go and look upon that machine as a entity and see what has been happening with that. It's similar to what the investigation screen shows you, like a graph which is connected. This is more like a tabular information of the same thing for a specific entity. Threat intelligence, I have not done the integration, but it's very straightforward. What you have to do is you have to connect the Microsoft Graph and build that information, and this will bring you the information. If I will show you that, it's here in this. As a connector, I have to do that connection and bring that up. So there is the preview thing of this, and if I go there, I have to go and set it up as an application ID and password, and then I have to do a connection. And what this will do is going to leverage the Microsoft Graph API and pull all that Graph API based information from a security perspective and show you that intelligence here in this. There was one more connector, which is a different party connector, but it's pretty much the same process for that as well. So you will be able to bring that up here. Now, we saw these two watch list. I haven't played with the watch list, but if I remember correctly, it is more like this here. You go and look upon. Then the important thing is you have to go and do the CSV. Now in this CSV, when you are doing it, you will be identifying a lot of things from the threat and intelligence, because it will need those the IDs of the file hash, and it will need the account IDs and hash and create that information. So it's still very new. I haven't seen this happening a lot at the customer places, but this is where the watch list lives in. So for anyone who is looking to work upon Sentinel, looking to sell Sentinel, or trying to deploy at customer end, the things start in steps. So you can go on and do things step by step. It's not that complex as it may sound like, the big piece, but it's very important to know that mastery in KQL and logic apps is your friend to go. If you can write the complex KQL queries, you will be able to trigger those incidents. And once those incidents are being generated, you will be able to write your playbooks, which can receive the information from incidents. And then you can go and further look upon the other information sources using that data. So I was trying to play with the Microsoft Threat Protection, which is the MTP, which is a new product which have all the 4 threat protection products. That has a new API endpoint now. So you have to be really like a dev mindset to play with the playbooks, so that you can connect a lot of things like that. So that was all which I had for today. I'm not sure if we still have a lot more time or not, but if you have to really learn as a level 100 and 200, start with the book. When you go to the Microsoft Press, you will be able to see a deal going on right now, and it's a PDF book which you can purchase, which will be like a 15 USD, which is not a bad deal at all. When I purchased, I have the coupon code ready, so I was able to purchase in a $15 USD. And then you can go to the tech community blog, which is being updated every week pretty much. And a lot of new features which are here are released first on that to talk about it. I have not seen some of those preview features in the Microsoft documentation as well. So that's really important as how you do it. And then if you want to do a Ninja 400 one, it's on the tech community, and you can learn from there. So that's all from my side. If any question, happy to look upon that.
We don't really have any questions right now. So obviously you were very, very clear in your presentation, Ashish. So so yeah, that's a fantastic job. Basically, yeah, I'd like to really thank you, Ashish, for doing that very excellent presentation together for us. I'd also like to shout out to Damien as well for pulling together the monthly roundup, the news slides. Damien does that every month, and he spends time pulling all that information together and presenting it. So really appreciate him doing that.
Thanks. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, that's very important to know what's happening in this world.
Yes, yes, indeed, especially because the cloud moves so fast. So every month there's usually so much happening. We have to just kind of pick, what we think are the top ideas. So so there will be a meeting next month. I can't announce what it is yet because it's not confirmed, but keep an eye on the Meetup channel, and also keep an eye out for those Tuesday sessions that Microsoft is going to run, those 1 hour lunchtime sessions on the Ignite updates, because that'll be really special. When that kicks off, you'll see the registration up on the Meetup site. And this event, as with all our monthly events now, has been recorded. So give me a few days and we'll have it uploaded on the BAUG YouTube site. And you'll be able to download and view the video from there. So with that, I think that's it. Thank you once again, Ashish. We really appreciate presenters taking their time to put all this together. And thank you, Damien, and hope everybody has a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Till next time.
Thanks, guys.